Hi, welcome to the Sankofa Pan African Series. I'm excited to be introducing a dynamic young African writer who will be reading to us from her novel, The EXeS. In the novel, we are introduced to a young woman who tries to be proactive by planning her life. Maureen plans that by the age of 27, she'd be married. Does Maureen succeed in actualizing her life plan? Before we meet the author of this sizzling novel, please click on your subscription button and your notification button. Thank you. Now, Patty Abbey, author of The EXeS, was born in Accra, Ghana. A former radio news anchor and a graduate of Methodist University College, Ghana, and African University College of Communication. Patty Abbey is a budding writer with deep interest in fictional stories. She's currently pursuing postgraduate studies at a Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration in business admin. The EXeS is her second novel. But before Patty joins us, let us hear Gabriela's review of the novel, The EXeS.
This novel by Patty Abbey was released in 2020 and follows the story of Maureen Mensah. Maureen is a young, beautiful woman who begins to take stock of her life, particularly her previous romantic relationships. In the book, we are taken back a few years to see young Maureen make a plan. This plan includes starting her own life at 23, but more importantly, being married at 25. At 27, Maureen could not have strayed further from her plan. She is single and her life is far from perfect. Maureen comes across as strong-willed and opinionated, but is actually extremely sensitive and amenable. This is seen in her relationships with the opposite sex. Maureen constantly bends over and gives into the demands of the men in her life. However, her account of her past relationships is brutally honest. She does not shy away from pointing out her errors and takes full responsibility for them. Her choices in men are worrisome, as sometimes it is clear from the outset that they are not good for her. Maureen constantly looks for validation in each of her relationships and finds none. She soon realizes that her married by 25 plan is flawed, as her relationships are not dependent on her efforts alone. The EXeS is a book about love, hurt, and self-discovery. We see Maureen constantly trying to find herself in her relationships. The language of the book is simple and easy to understand. The theme of rape was also discussed in the book, albeit in little detail. The steamy scenes are well thought out, and the reader is allowed to ease into these scenes very nicely. This book is one I totally recommend.
Thank you very much, Gabby. Hi, Patty. Thank you very much for being a
Hi,
part of the Sankofa Pan African Series. I'm really
thank you.
excited to be
Thank you
having
for
this
having me.
conversation with you.
So,
Now, um, since this novel, The Exorcist, focuses on Maureen, you know,
yes.
she's the protagonist, she's the main character of the novel. I find the title, The Exorcist, intriguing, you know. So,
Yeah.
why that title?
The exes came about because the story is centered on a lady who had bad personal choices that she made. So
Mhm.
obviously, she jumped from one man to the other. So the story is talking about the past relationship that she had with men. So these men were her exes. So that was just about it.
So it's not as if you were trying to kind of take the attention away from the fact that this is a woman who is maybe like trying to go over her choices, like you said, you know, trying to be introspective about her life. But I kind of felt that the title deflects from the fact that this is actually a novel about a young woman who is
Mhm.
trying to be introspective about the kind of choices she's made in her life regarding men. So that because the title
Yes,
focuses more on the men, on her,
yes.
rather than on her,
That,
which the
that
book is
was the
really about.
focus. That was the focus. The story was about the men and the choices that she made, which was why she had to go through all these men. So I had to make. That was why I chose the EXeS.
Awesome. Now, we're going to have the pleasure of you read to us a segment of the book. But before you do, can you just give us a bit of background that leads up to this part of the book that you're going to read
Okay,
to
so
us?
um, let me see. I'm going to read from page 95 in the actual book. So
Mhm.
that part leads to my character Maureen, where she's had some difficult relationships. I mean, if you read the book, she dated three guys at the same time. At the same time, she was able to date three guys at the same time. So she had finally come out from doing all of that, and then she ends up getting into another situationship. So the title of that part was From Frying Pan to Fire. Yes, it was like she hadn't learned anything from the past three relationships that she had just come out from, and she just jumped into another one.
Okay. So
Yeah. Okay.
let's hear the portion of the book.
Okay. So from frying pan to fire. One would think that after my experience with them, I had become invincible, that I knew every trick that men had in their sleeves, that I had learned my lesson and would keep men off for a long time, maybe become a nun. Okay, now that'll be going too far. They say trouble comes in threes, right? Yet mine came in fours, whatever that meant. I had I had become a shadow of myself. I kept to myself and rarely went out. I focused on my studies and alcohol till I met Sam. He didn't have the features I looked out for in a man, but he was a nice person. I met him at a supermarket. I had unknowingly dropped my purse as I walked through the shop, and he walked right up to me and handed it over. I was taken aback by his kindness, and I had learned never to judge a book by its cover. He was tall and dark, with an unimpressive look, but he had saved me from embarrassment. At least, the least I could do was ask for his number to thank him later. We started talking consistently, but I wasn't ready to hit off with anyone yet. I just needed a friend, and Sam had become that friend. I gradually became an alcoholic and found it difficult to concentrate during lectures. I was always drunk. Sam didn't talk me out of it. He was also an alcoholic, and whenever I was free to hang out, we would both go out and share a bottle of wine. He was such a good company. Like Alfred, he had so much to talk about. We shared common interests. We always had lots of things to talk about. What are you doing tomorrow? Sam said. Nothing really. Maybe do some cleaning at home and rest. How about you spend the day with me? I want to introduce you to my family. Are you sure? I was stunned. Yes, you are one interesting girl. I want my family to meet my new friend. I smiled. We were sitting at a bar in my area. On Friday night, I stayed out for a long on Friday night. I stayed out for as long as I wanted, so I mostly hung out with Sam. This there was no big deal if he wanted me to meet his family. I told him I could make time in the afternoon, so we agreed to meet at noon. He picked me up at the junction because I had lied that I was going to school for a group discussion. We stopped at a restaurant to get some food before we went to his house. His family was very hospitable. Sam introduced me as his wife. Just when I was recovering from the shock of what he had said, his younger sister got up and hugged me. I was confused. We were not dating, not to talk of being referred to as his wife. I was amused, but I had to force a smile. I didn't know how to react to that because I didn't want to give them the impression that he had lied about us. So I played along. It became easier to chat with them. His mother told me I was welcome to their house at any time. How was I going to get out of this one? When did I become your wife? I looked quizzically at him. I looked quizzically at Sam when we went out of earshot. Don't act like you don't know that I'm interested in you. I'd like to end from
uh, Maureen seems to always have this knack of getting herself into scraps. Like this
there.
instance, becoming an alcoholic just because she's spending time with a man who drinks a lot. And there on
Yeah,
more than one occasion, she takes up with men who are significantly older than her. you know
definitely.
is there something in her background that you're trying to show that maybe she's overcompensating for? What
Yeah,
is responsible for these flaws in her nature?
my character grew up without family, like not family per se, but her father. She didn't have a father figure, so I think that was why she was making those terrible decisions. Maybe she wanted to feel loved. So
Mm,
with that in mind, she kept. I think she was trying to fill the gap when it came to a man. So it was basically older men who were older than her, and she didn't want to be left alone. She didn't want to be alone at any time. Like,
mm,
uh,
mm. And which is also quite makes her a sympathetic figure, especially when one sees that. And this was someone who actually tried to be proactive. By at one time, I think when she was younger, sat down and decided, oh, this is what by the time I'm this age, I want to be I've done this. By the time I'm this age, I want to have been married. So she was someone who actually was being proactive by kind of having a life plan. But she
so
does not seem to be able to see it through.
she was very ambitious. I mean, she had her eyes set on the prize. She wanted a good job. She wanted to gain wealth and get married to the man of her dreams at the age of 26. But then life always, don't capture the perfect pictures. So she realizes that the decisions that she made, had a way of, turning on her
Mm,
plans. Even though she had made plans, life life doesn't work like that. Even when you make plans, things happen.
life happens.
Yeah,
But I like the way you've kind of uh, put in the elements that make readers empathize with her. Even though she bungles these relations, you can see that she's someone who actually has a good heart. But
yeah,
maybe not the right head to go with it.
yeah. She had a heart at the right place, but just that
Yes.
um, she failed to make the right choices.
Mm,
Yes.
mm. So, what inspired this novel?
Okay, so like I said earlier, I think when you love reading, a point of view might want to start one on your own because that was what it was for me. And with the case of the exes, there was a particular book which I mentioned earlier that I read, which was centered on the character who thought cheating was in the blood, so kept jumping from one man to the other. So I thought there are other reasons why women get into relationships and it ends badly. So that was what inspired the exes.
Okay. So, what would you like your readers to take away from reading the X's?
Okay, so basically, the Exes is about making is about choices. So it highlights the importance of patience and the effects of our choices when it comes to relationships. So basically, when you're able to practice patience, it will help you dissipate stress and then give you a choice about how to respond to disappointments and frustrations. Therefore, you don't act harshly or rashly out of frustration. So the message is to be patient and in all your dealings, I mean. So, and by so doing, you can make the good choices with a clear head, which won't just go for your relationship, but all areas of your life will improve.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Patty Abbey, for
Thank you.
being a part of the Sankofa Pan African Series. And we look forward to reading more from you in the near future. I'm
Sure.
sure your your pen is not going to rest because you're going to be
This is
reading
actually
more
my
things.
second book. So I
Okay.
have the first one. The first one also has an interesting title. It's actually abstract. It's purses and wallets. So when
Purses and
people,
wallets.
yes, when people hear about that, they think that it's about money, but it's actually not. It's women and men.
Oh,
I I,
awesome.
I love love, so I like to write about relationships. So yeah, most of the things that I write are centered on things like that. I'm actually working on the third one too, so
We'll look out for it.
sure.
Thank you for sharing the X's with us. So, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Patty Abbey as much as I have. Please feel free to share with your contacts and don't forget to buy and read the novel if you've not already done so. Before we go, I have two questions that I'd like you to address on our community page. First question. In this novel, The EXeS, Maureen seems to tie her success in life to getting married. Should marriage and childbearing be a woman's ultimate achievement in life? The second question is in the EXeS, Maureen also constantly forgives the men who hurt her and she lets them back into her life. How do you deal with the people who hurt you? Thank you very much, Patty Abbey, for being a part of the Sankofa Pan African Series. We look forward to reading more from you in the near future. Bye.